human adventure.
Presented by the Mutual Broadcasting System with the University of Chicago for America's radio audience.
These evenings, through science and scholarship, enter with us upon a new search toward the fuller understanding of our universe, ourselves, and our society.
Our host is Meredith Wilson of the Department of History of the University of Chicago.
Our story is the story of man's search for knowledge, which is science, his search for wisdom, which is scholarship, the adventure in ideas, which is the human adventure. This day, from a recent work of historical scholarship, new light on the economic and political beginnings of a new nation.
This hour, a study of revolution. Seems a bit unfair to me.
I suppose one could say so, but we're part of a great empire. Really, it's not so serious as you would have me believe.
No, perhaps not. Yet I feel imposed upon.
Come now, you mustn't grumble so, or we'll put you down for a crank.
I'm no crank. I'm a perfectly good, law-abiding subject of the British Empire.
So help me, my friend. I don't question your loyalty.
I should hope not. No one knows better than I do. Here in the colonies, we draw our strength from Britain. Yet I do feel we are being treated rather shabbily. Crank or no crank, I say it seems a bit unfair.
How long are we to bear such injustice? It rankles my very soul to think about it.
Easily, my friend, easily. Would you have us take you for a radical?
Take me for what you will. I've had my fill, and I intend to speak my mind. This is no longer the Dark Ages. This is 1762.
Be calm now. Be calm. We are all linked together in a profitable chain of dependence. The colonies, with our parent England, form a beautiful whole, and together we shall all make our fortune.
If fortunes are to be made, let them be made for us and not for England. Let us have our independence.
Independence? You are a radical.
Burn it down! Burn the house down! Give the scoundrel a taste of our independence!
Listen to me, men! Listen to me! This is the house of an honorable agent of the king.
This is the house of a sneaking tax collector. This is the house of an agent of tyranny. Burn it down! Burn it down, I say!
Hear me! Hear me! Are you without respect for the law? Are you without respect for the crown? Have you no respect for your own mother country?
Show your mettle, men. You afraid of your shadows? Let them know what it is to be an American. Burn the house! Burn it down!
Burn it down! Burn the house down!
Burn! 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 Burn!
They tell us, sir, that we are weak, unable to cope with so formidable an adversary. But when shall we be stronger? Will it be the next week or the next year? Will it be when we are totally disarmed and when a British guard shall be stationed in every house? Shall we gather strength by irresolution and inaction? The battle, sir, is not to the strong alone. It is to the vigilant, the active, and the brave. Besides, we have no choice. There is no retreat but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged. Their clanking may be heard on the plains of Boston. The war is inevitable, and let it come. I repeat it, sir. Let it come.
Patrick Henry made that speech in 1775. But many of his countrymen considered him a Virginia hothead and failed to share his joy in the prospect of conflict. Why, then, should the bloody struggle be welcomed? What are the causes of the American Revolution? Tonight we dramatize the struggle of the 13 American colonies for independence from the British Empire, as told by John C. Miller in his study of the origins of the American Revolution.
And now, our host for the human adventure, Meredith Wilson of the Department of History of the University of Chicago.
World War II is ended, and we have victory without peace. The cries for independence are heard from colonial peoples around the world. The dictators may be dead, but tyranny lives wherever men are taxed without consent or forced to yield obedience to alien peoples. In such a crisis, this country, as the world's strongest power, must face the persisting question of empire and colonial peoples. A university is concerned with the problems of history, problems which involved revolution and empire. Tonight we turn to the story of our fathers, who fought for the principle that all governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. Our struggle for freedom in 1776 is the timeless struggle between despotism and democracy. For when men are moved to revolt, mere economic concessions do not satisfy them. Our unhappy generation must learn that freedom is not something to be owned, but something to be lived. We can have it only when we insist that others share it. The quest for freedom is our great human adventure.
In the year 1764, the tiny island kingdom of Great Britain has reached a new height in empire. She has secured Canada and India, and numbers among her possessions 13 colonies strung along the Atlantic seaboard of North America. Thus, the fashionable aristocracy in London, basking in the victories won in the Treaty of Paris in 1763, looks to the government of its empire, dances the newest minuet.
Egad, sir, I told him. Who is to be the master, England or the colonies?
My dear Lord Ratcliffe, I feel sure no colonial could properly answer that, eh, what?
You may feel so, Sir Henry, but you have no idea what unreasonable scoundrels these colonials may be.
Is that so? More wine for you, Lord Ratcliffe.
If you don't mind. A fine bottle, this.
You, other gentlemen, will you have some? You, sir. You've drunk precious little. Won't you join us, sir?
Thank you, no. I'm not used to such quantities of good wine.
But my word, I believe you speak with an American accent, sir.
It is not surprising, my lord, inasmuch as I am an American.
Oh, how very embarrassing.
Please understand, sir, that my comments upon the character of our colonials were not personal ones.
Am I to understand, then, Lord Ratcliffe, that you do not consider me quite so boorish as my brother colonial?
Oh, indeed not, indeed not. Not nearly so boorish. Isn't that so, Ratcliffe?
My dear fellow, some of my best friends are colonials.
You are very generous, Lord Ratcliffe.
Not at all, not at all. But come now, sir. You will agree that the American colonies are making a great deal of sound and fury about nothing.
Yes. What in the world has gotten into you chaps? You spout grievances like so many naughty school children.
Some of us feel, Sir Henry, that the schoolmaster is unjust.
Unjust? An Englishman unjust? Please, sir, be more specific or be more courteous.
Oh, very well. For a full century, the English Parliament has been channeling American trade into British coffers.
So help me, I see nothing unjust in that.
Naturally not, sir. The coffers are yours. But we are bound to resent it when you pass laws making it virtually impossible for us to trade with other nations.
Oh, upon my soul, pish tush.
By your laws, we must supply your manufacturers with raw materials.
And why not, my good fellow? It's always been so.
Moreover, your laws dictate that the American colonies purchase the fruit of Britain's factories while making it most difficult for us to establish our own.
Sound business policy. Surely we admit that.
Some of my countrymen are not so certain of Tory business policy.
But how perfectly impractical of them. The very size and wealth of the empire contradicts them.
The empire, sir, has been won partly by wars.
A time-honored method, I should say.
Quite so, but wars are expensive. The 7 Years' War is just now exacting its fee.
We shall devise means of paying for that. Never worry.
I do not doubt it.
Gracious man, what are taxes for?
Exactly. And whom will you tax?
You imply, sir, that there would be a large colonial tax. And I quite agree. Why should there not be? We have fought a war to save the Americans from the French and Indians. Now they must pay for that defense.
Hear, hear. What do you say to that?
I say, gentlemen, that you will be adding one more hot coal to an already smoldering fire. possible that you cannot now find a revolution in the colonies, but I am certain you can make one. Well, gentlemen, this is a party, and I shall make no more dreary political conversation. You will excuse me, I'm sure.
Perfectly astonishing, fellow.
Most unreasonable. Radical, perhaps. Possibly a Whig.
Quite typical of the American colonials, I should say. I didn't catch the fellow's name. Did you?
Oh, my wife mentioned it earlier this evening. I believe it was, oh, dear. He is the agent of Pennsylvania, as I remember. Franklin. Yes, that's it. Mr. Benjamin Franklin.
Revolution? No, not in the polite conversation of a London drawing room. But Mr. Franklin is a wise man, and he has detected a source of resentment. A resentment uttered later in the same year of 1764 by a shocked Virginia planter and soldier, George Washington. He says,
I've learned on good authority that Britain plans to tax us for the support of her troops among us. It is said we'll be taxed 60,000 pounds per year.
Washington's authority is good indeed. 10,000 redcoats are sent to America. British soldiers whose presence in the colonies must be paid for. And Parliament, for the first time in its history, turns to the pockets of the colonists for revenue. In 1764, George Grenville, penny-pinching Chancellor of the Exchequer, pilots two laws through England's Parliament. First, the Sugar Act.
For improving the revenue of this kingdom, a duty of threepence a gallon shall be imposed on foreign molasses and on refined sugar.
That's not just another tax. By taxing molasses from which rum is made, Grenville threatens New England with ruin, strikes a blow at the economic foundations of the Middle Atlantic colonies, and at the same time opens the way for British West Indians to get rich at the expense of the American colonials. Then in 1765, another Grenville law, the Stamp Act.
To secure revenues toward the expense of defending, protecting, and securing the colonies, stamps sold by His Majesty's government must be affixed to all deeds, mortgages, inventories, college diplomas, playing cards, pamphlets, newspapers, and calendars.
Just how bad is that? Is it something to get excited about? What do the colonists think of it? They cluster in drawing rooms and taverns and on street corners and on the town commons in Massachusetts, in Virginia, in Rhode Island, and South Carolina. Farmers, merchants, printers, mechanics, planters, the crowds gather.
Quiet! Quiet! I have something to say. I'll tell you what this Stamp Act is. A hateful project to transfer the whole property of the king's subjects in America to his subjects in Great Britain.
Take it easy, Thomas Todd. It ain't no such thing.
You defend the Stamp Act, friend? Then tell us how.
I ain't defending no one. I'm saying Thomas Todd is a hothead, and this Stamp Act ain't no more serious than a fly on a horse's rump. I heard a lawyer say today that all it meant was 1 shilling per man in all these colonies for a whole year. Now, that's but a third of an honest day's work, and it won't hurt none of you to pay it.
Aye, my friend. But by the same power by which England can make us pay 1 shilling, in time they can make us pay our last shilling.
We are Englishmen. We must let the Parliament lay what burdens they please on us. It is our duty to patiently bear them till they shall be pleased to relieve us.
Then why don't they tax themselves, too? Why must we colonists be the only ones?
There's a man with brains in his skull.
Brains? Is it brains to speak disloyally of king and country? Is it brains to utter treason?
Call it what you will, friend. I tell you that the Stamp Act not only threatens to fleece us of our money, it does something worse than that.
Nothing could be worse than that for you, Thomas Todd.
Take your jibes and have your jokes. But remember, I warn you now that this Stamp Act threatens more than our money. It threatens our liberty.
Big words, friend. Explain yourself.
Answer me now. Who is being taxed?
We are.
And who asked us if we wanted to be taxed? Eh? Who asked us? No one asked us, that's who. And tell me this now. Who passed this Stamp Act that taxes our money? The British Parliament did. And is there anyone in the British Parliament to stand up for us and say our say for us there? There is not. Are we properly represented in our own government? No! So what have we got? I'll tell you. Taxation without representation. And for one, I won't stand for it. We've got to protest. Is that right? We've got to protest! Protest! Protest!
Protest, they say. Is that revolution? Not yet, but closer, always closer. The colonists refuse to buy British. Patriots swear they will fight up to their knees in blood against the Stamp Act. Hatred surges into riot. Crown officers and stamp masters are chased through back alleys of America and hanged in effigy. But it is not yet revolution. And in 1766, as the American boycott takes effect and British merchants look to their pockets, Parliament repeals the obnoxious Stamp Act. A clerk in the British Treasury Office makes a notation.
Debit, £631 9 shillings, representing administration and printing expenses for revenue stamps unused.
The Stamp Act is gone. The British are making concessions. The British are appeasing the colonists. But the seeds of revolution are still there. Each man with a grievance is one more such seed. Each man like this merchant.
At first, I didn't complain about the Navigation Acts that forced me to trade with Britain and Britain only. You could always get around them with a little smuggling. But now, Grenville has clamped down on smuggling. He has made paper money illegal and tried to drain us of hard money. I wonder now, why should our trade be restricted? Why should I let a British merchant profit from my work?
Each man with a grievance is a seed of revolution.
I'd like to have been an iron worker like my father. But in 1750, Britain prohibited erection of any new mills in the colonies. So I can't get the job I want.
Each man with a grievance, one more seed.
Parliament is restricting our trade and ruining our manufacturing. And now the last straw, they're robbing us of our political liberty. I say that all men have a natural right to life, liberty, and property.
Each man, one more seed.
To me, the absurdity of absurdities is that these paltry fellows who have jockeyed, bought, and pandered their ways in the House of Commons should regard themselves as representatives of Virginians or Pennsylvanians whom they have never seen. And our taxes support them.
In that discontent, there is enough ill will and enough malice to start a fight. But it takes two to make a fight. Where American colonies grumble their grievances against the British protest against the colonies. For every American who said no taxation without representation, there was an Englishman who said,
a country which we cannot tax is a country not subject to us. You colonials are English subjects. It is therefore perfectly within the rights and duties of Parliament to demand taxes from you.
For every American who complained of a domineering British Parliament, there was an Englishman who said,
the supremacy of the British legislator must be complete, entire, and unconditional. To allow otherwise would weaken us all, including the colonies.
For every American who called upon the principle of natural law and natural rights to defend his views, there was an Englishman who said,
an American rioter and rebel thinks he has a right to defraud the customs, to perjure himself at the customs house, to tar and feather government customs officers. But the laws of nature, which give these surprising rights to American rioters, give no such right to the king's officers to strike back.
For every American who cursed the British and shouted for blood, there was an Englishman who said,
patriots, sons of liberty, poppycock, merely a few self-seeking rabble-rousers. Catch and hang those few and all will be quiet over there.
Is it revolution then? Not yet. Not just yet. But gradually, year by year, the kindling is piled higher. In 1767, Parliament imposes the townshend duties on window glass, on lead, on paints, on paper, and on tea. Tea is a short word. Tea is a common, harmless drink. But in 1773, tea becomes a bigger word. It becomes a great issue. And here is how it happens. In 1773 in London, Lord North, the British Tory leader, calls his advisers to a meeting.
Gentlemen, I have called you this night to discuss the question of tea.
Tea. I wish I'd never heard the word.
You forget, sir, that the tax on tea is the source of great revenue to His Majesty's government.
Split me, sir, I forget nothing of the sort. I only wish to know why these accursed Americans object so to the tea tax. It's not they who are taxed, it's the East India Company.
You are naive, Raycliffe. The Americans are entirely aware that the revenue derived from the tax on tea is used to support our troops and civil service in the colonies. The colonists, unjustly, I feel, regard this as an infringement of their liberty.
Scurvy pack of troublemakers.
Be that as it may, Sir Henry, I believe I have hit upon a solution.
I should be amazed if that be true, Lord North.
Hear me out. First, you're aware that the East India Company has again fallen on evil days. Millions of pounds of tea stand unsold in their warehouses in India. Now, this is an unhappy state of affairs for the government. An obvious danger to our treasury.
Of course the tea rots unsold. The Dutch are smuggling tea into the colonies and underselling the East India Company.
Then our only recourse is to reduce the tea tax in order that our tea may be sold more cheaply.
Not at all, my dear Sir Henry. I have a better means. I simply propose that we allow the East India Company to sell its tea directly to the Americans. I propose that we no longer require that company to sell the tea to merchants here in England who have always then resold it to the Americans. I propose simply that we eliminate the middleman.
Lord North, I congratulate you, sir. You are a wizard, sir.
Clever, most clever. Even the Dutch smugglers will be undersold. Deucedly clever.
Still, however, there is a question unsolved. The Americans will continue to object to the tax for the same reason they have objected before.
The Americans object to the tax on the ground that it interferes with their liberty. And liberty, sir, bothers a man less when his purse is enlarged.
I have heard that 1 million Americans drink tea twice a day. Make it easier and cheaper for them to have their tea, and patriotism will wither.
Who would have thought that tea would be the key to domestic peace? Astonishing, wouldn't you say?
No, very sorry, Tory gentlemen. Peace is not the word. True, the colonists now actually pay less for tea than do the English themselves, but fear of monopoly, fear of stolen liberty, these things are not killed by low prices. Patriotism does not wither. Cheap tea does not sweeten colonial bitterness. Instead, in America, men talk like this.
Americans, do not suffer yourself to sip the accursed duty tea. For if you do, the devil will enter you, and you will instantly become a traitor to your country.
Beware the East India Company.
It's a trick, that's what it is. What the Parliament couldn't fleece from us by taxes, the Crown will take from us by monopoly. I'll buy no British tea, not I.
There are 3 shiploads of their foul tea in Boston Harbor. And you know what I say? I say let them go back to India with him. Let them take it back where it came from.
Is that what you say? I say differently. I say we ought to show them what we think of their tea tax and their tricks. I say, let's throw the tea overboard. Let's dump the stuff into the salt water.
On the night of December 16th, 150 Bostonians disguised as Indians creep quietly to the sides of the tea ships in the harbor.
Who goes there?
Indians!
Then be gone. You can't come aboard this ship. Here, what's going on here? I tell you, you can't board this ship.
Board the ships, men. Board the ships.
Here, you. There's British goods aboard this ship. You can't do this. What do you think you're doing? Get off here. Get off.
To the tea, men. Find the tea. Into the water with it. Dump it all. Down with the Tories, men. Down with the king. Show your spirit. Find every chest of tea aboard. That's the boys. There's the first one.
You can't do this. This is treason. It's treason.
Get it all, men. Every last chest of it. Every last chest of it.
This is treason. You'll all hang. This is treason, I
say. Treason is a bigger word than tea. He who commits treason is disloyal. He who is disloyal is a rebel. He may not be a rebel with a gun. The guns come later. But there is still time for the worried British General Gage to write to his superiors in London.
If you think 10,000 soldiers sufficient here, send 20. If 1 million is thought enough, send 2. You will save both blood and treasure in the end.
There's barely time for Patrick Henry to say,
The next gale from the north will bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms. I am of the opinion, sirs, that we must fight.
Britain girds for revenge and mastery, but when she attempts to punish Boston, the other colonies unite in alarm. At a Continental Congress in Philadelphia, they pledge aid in case of an unprovoked armed clash of Bostonian and Redcoat. It's closer now, much closer. Then on the night of April 18th, 1775, a farmer sits reading in his house near Lexington, Massachusetts. His wife interrupts him.
John, I'm afraid.
Afraid of what, wife?
This wild talk, these angry men. These men who've stored the powder in the big house in town.
I helped store that powder, Elizabeth.
I know it well. You've caught the fever, too.
'Tis no fever. If a man must fight, he needs the tools to do it.
Must you fight? There is no war.
Not yet.
Not yet. Then you think there will be war?
You believe it as much as I.
Say you'll not fight, John. Please say it.
I have not fought. Yet.
John, I've hid your musket.
Hid? Foolish woman. 'Tis no time to play such pranks.
I'm afraid for you, John.
The rumor has it General Gage may march his redcoats on our town to take our powder from us.
Here? To Lexington?
Aye, here to Lexington. Wait. Quiet.
What's the matter? What do you hear?
Listen, Elizabeth. You hear? A horse. Listen.
A galloping horse.
Give me my musket, Elizabeth.
Why? Why, John?
You will hear. Listen now. You hear, Elizabeth?
The war has come now. The war has come.
Where is my musket, Elizabeth? I must go now. Have faith, my wife. The time has come. Where is my musket?
Your musket is behind the chimney, John.
Now it has come. Now there is revolution. Now the 13 colonies along the Atlantic seaboard of the continent band together, call themselves the 13 United States of America. It is inevitable now that a year later a new nation shall announce to the world,
we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness.
The Human Adventure is jointly presented by the Mutual Broadcasting System and the University of Chicago. Selected programs are transcribed for rebroadcast by the overseas network of the Armed Forces Radio Service. Music was by Kenneth Churchill, the conductor, Robert Trendler. The script editor, in cooperation with the University of Chicago, Francis Coughlin. The writers, Velma Burke and John D. Hess. The director, Morrison Wood. 1 week from tonight, the Human Adventure will present Machiavelli, Teacher of Tyrants, A Guide to Practical Evil.
That's next week, Machiavelli.
This program has come to you from Chicago. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.